Hello students, how are you? I am sure you are all well. Students, in our day-to-day life, we come across situations where we have to give number to a collection of objects. For example, we use phrases in your life like, there are 10 apples in a basket. So, there is a symbol to represent this number 10. Likewise, we use, there are 12 players in a cricket team. Again, there is a symbol for this number 12. Let us see a very different case now. Suppose you have an object and you cut that object and you want to give a name to the part of that object. For example, if I have an apple and I cut it into two parts and I want to give a name to each part. Probably you may be having an answer for that. That is known as half. Again, if I cut the same apple into 4 equal parts and I want to name a part from it, then again you may be having an answer for that. It is known as a quarter of an apple. Let us move further. Suppose I cut the same apple into 10 equal parts and I want to give a name to each part. Probably at this time you may not have an answer. This is because our language is limited. So there is a need to mathematize this idea or to quantify these ideas. So this is what we are going to see in this session. So what all things we are going to do in this session? We are going to learn about what is a unit fraction, how to represent any fraction, proper and improper fraction, convert mixed fraction to improper fraction and vice versa, and addition of fraction. You can see on the screen there is a circular shape. So what I am going to do, I am going to cut this circle into some part. Let us cut this circle into 4 equal parts. So you can see that the circle has been cut into 4 equal parts and I have colored 3 parts with blue color and 1 part with orange color. So I want to give a name to this orange color part. So we know that it is known as 1 quarter. Okay, let us move further. Again, I want to cut the circle into 2 equal parts. Okay, so it has been cut and I want to give a name. Again, you have an answer for that. It is known as a half. So, okay, you can see on the screen that this is a jigsaw puzzle. I hope and I am sure that you all like jigsaw puzzle. In this puzzle, you can see that there are 4 parts and all of them are equal in area. And when we are going to combine this, we are going to get a beautiful picture. Can you guess what picture you are going to get? Okay, I am going to solve it and we are going to see what picture we are going to get. But for the timing, let us see that can we give a name to each part? Yes, each part would be known as a quarter. Okay, so let us now solve this puzzle and let us see what picture we are going to get. Isn't it beautiful? This is Taj Mahal. You may be proud that Taj Mahal is one of the 7 wonders of the world. Okay. Now you can see a rectangle over here. What I want to do, I want to cut this rectangle into equal parts. Okay, let us cut this rectangle into equal parts. So I have divided this rectangle into equal parts. So let us see how many parts are there. This is part number 1, this is part 2, this is part 3, this is part 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we had a rectangle and we divided the rectangle into 8 equal parts. Now what? I am going to divide these rectangle and it has been separated. Again, my question is, can we give a name for this orange part? Okay, we are going to see it. Before that, we have to do certain definition. We have to discuss some definition about unit fraction. Now, what is a unit fraction? Unit fraction is obtained when we have an object and we divide the object into n equal part, and each part is known as a unit fraction, and there is a representation for that. What is the representation? The representation is 1 over n. So now you have a representation for a part of an object which has been divided into n equal part. For each part there is a mathematical representation for it. The mathematical representation for a part, that unit part, is 1 over n. Now we are going to increase our vocabulary. For n equals to 1, what does it mean? It means that we are talking about the whole object. So when n equals to 1, 1 over n is 1 over 1, it would be called a whole. Then when n equals to 2, it would be known as half. And when n equals to 3, it would be known 1/3, and when n equals to 4, it would be known as 1/4. Likewise, when I am going to divide any object into 5 parts, then each part would be known as 1/5, and it would be represented by mathematically as 1 over 5. So now you have some representation to represent fraction. Let us visualize it. On the screen you can see that there are rectangles. If you see the first rectangle, it is colored orange. So how you are going to represent this whole rectangle? As we have discussed, this is going to represent by 1. If you see the second rectangle, it is the same rectangle, but in this case it has been divided into 2 equal parts. Again, I want to give a name to each part. So now, since we know what is a unit fraction, since we had a rectangle and we have divided this into 2 equal parts, so each rectangle would be represented by 1 over 2 and would be known as a half. Again, you can see the third rectangle, it has been divided into 3 equal parts, and if you want to give a name to each part, then it would be read as 1/3, and you know the symbol to represent it, it would be represented by 1 over 3. So I am sure that you understood this idea of unit fraction. Now let us come back to the question which I have asked earlier. So I have a rectangle, I have divided this rectangle into 8 equal parts, and I want to give a name to each part. Probably now you have an answer for it, because this is actually a unit fraction. So how you are going to represent it? Since it has been divided into 8 parts, so it would be represented by the symbol 1 over 8, and it would be read as 1/8. Isn't it simple? Okay, now let us see this rectangle. You can see that this is a rectangle and we have divided the rectangle into 3 equal parts. Probably you have an answer for each part. Each part is known as 1/3. Now what I want, I am going to divide this rectangle and I am going to separate each part. So when I am going to separate these parts, you can see that there is 1 blue part and 2 orange part, and you know that each part is 1/3, but now I have a different task. What is the task? I have to take these orange rectangle together and I have to give a mathematical representation for it. So what mathematical representation I am going to give? So you probably know what is addition. When we take 2 or more things together, we have to use the symbol plus. So we are going to use the same symbol over here. Okay, let us see how to do it. So you can see that since I want a representation for these two orange part, I am going to take it together. So how I am going to write? So you can see on the screen that 1/3 plus 1/3. But in your earlier classes, you know that when you add similar thing like variable x plus x, it can be written in terms of multiplication also. So x plus x is 2x. So what is here? Here 1/3 plus 1/3 is 2 1/3. So you can use multiplication to represent it. So 1/3 plus 1/3 is 2 times 1/3. Now again this is represented, so this means that this orange portion is represented as 2 times 1/3. But I want a simpler representation for it. So for that, what we are going to do, we are going to take and this 2 and 3 and we are going to use 2 over 3. So you should remember that 2 over 3 has a meaning. What is that meaning? 2 over 3 means there are 2 1/3. Now if I take all the 3 together, 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3, again since I am taking 3 1/3, I can write it as 3 multiplied by 1/3. So if I use this representation which I have used in the previous step, this would be written as 3 over 3. But what is this 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 according to this figure? This gives the entire rectangle. So it would be represented by 1, which we have discussed earlier. Okay, now we are going to use some notations and terminologies. We have seen that if we have an object and divide into n equal part, then each part is known as unit fraction and it is represented as 1 over n. And in the earlier example, we have seen that we can take some unit fractions and collectively there is a method or representation for that. So if we take p of them together, then it is represented as p over n. It is a fraction. Now it has a special name. So when we write p over n, p is known as numerator and n is known as denominator. So remember that when you have a fraction like p over n, p is known as numerator and n is known as denominator. Again, p over n is p times 1 over n, and what does p times 1 over n means? P times 1 over n means that 1 over n has to be added p times. So 1 over n has been added, and how many times it has been added? It has been added p times. So students, you should know when I am writing any fraction, what does it mean? Again, if there is a unit fraction like 1 over b, and consider this case, when I am adding this b times, what does it mean? This means that it is the whole. So how do you represent the whole? You represent the whole by 1. So 1 over b, when added b times, it would be 1. So you should remember these notations and these conversions. Now we are going to discuss what is proper fraction. Now you know what is a fraction. When we define fraction, fraction is represented by the symbol like p over q. Now if the numerator, now you know what is numerator and you know what is denominator. If numerator is less than denominator, such type of fraction has a special name. It is known as proper fraction. So you can see on the screen that proper fraction is represented as p over q and p is less than q. So probably you may be knowing the symbol which I am using for less than. It is known as, so P over Q when P is less than Q is known as a proper fraction. Now we have to combination of whole and fraction, and we have to represent it mathematically. So how you are going to represent it? So on the screen you can see that there is a whole circle which is colored in green, and there is half of that circle which is colored green. Now I want to represent the portion which is colored green mathematically. So how you are going to do it? Since I have a whole circle, it would be represented by the symbol 1, and since the other circle only half of the portion is colored, so I will use the symbol for it 1 over 2. Now I want to take it collectively. I want to represent what portion is colored green. So I am going to use the same symbol, addition symbol, plus symbol for that. So 1 plus 1 over 2. But I want to represent it in some simpler form. So what simpler form I am going to use? You are going to see it. So 1 and 1 over 2. So I am using 1 for the whole and 1 over 2 for a part of it. So you should remember this representation. So whenever a number like 1 over 2 is given, you should understand that what 1 represents and what 1 over 2 represents. Now let us simplify it more. Now the whole circle means the first circle, it can be divided into two parts. So I can write 1 as 1 over 2 half plus half, because 2 half will give us 1, and I am going to add the other half. So in this way we are going to get 3 halves. So again the same question, when you have 3 things and you are adding it together, so we use multiplication symbols for that. So we can use multiplication symbol here also. So how we are going to use it? We are going to, since how many 1 over 2 are there? How many halves are there? There are 3 halves. So how I am going to write it? I can write it as 3 times 1 over 2. Again the representation which we have discussed earlier, if it is written as 3 over 1 over 2, it may be written as 3 over 2. Students, you should understand what does 3 over 2 means. 3 over 2 means there are 3 halves, which is seen by the explanation which I have given earlier. Now let us do one more example. On the screen you can see that there are 2 full circles and a quarter of the circle. So how to represent it? So you can see, so by the earlier representation you know that to represent the whole we use the whole number. So since here there are 2 whole circles, I am going to use the numeral 2 over here. So 2 and a quarter, and by the earlier representation you know how to represent it. So 2 1 over 4. So let us expand it more. So 2 1 over 4, what does it mean? It means 2 plus 1 over 4. But to represent each circle individually, I can again break this 2. How I am going to break it? I am going to write this 2 as 1 plus 1 and 1 over 4. But I want a simple representation, a final representation for this fraction. So again, since I know that the last part is 1 quarter, so I am going to divide my first and
सामने देखिए सर, सहज भाव से है ना सर, करेंगे सर। ओके, सामने देखिए सर, सामने देख के शुरू करेंगे अपन। ओके, 3 2 1 क्यू।
So students, you have seen how to represent a whole and a fraction. Let us see some more example. On the screen you can see that there are 2 full circles and a quarter of that circle. I want to represent this by a fraction. So you can see that by the earlier representation it is represented as 2 and 1 quarter. So if I want to write in the form of addition, how I am going to write? I am going to write it as 2 plus 1 over 4. I want to reduce it further. So what I can do, I can write this 2 as 1 plus 1 for each shaded circle and plus a quarter, which is the circle which is shaded quarter. Now what I want to do, I want to represent the shaded circle and divide this shaded circle into 4 equal parts so that we get a simpler fraction. So how we are going to divide the circle, first circle. So when I am going to divide the first circle into 4 equal parts, I am going to get 1 quarter, quarter means 4 quarter, and when 4 quarters added together, it gives the representation for the first circle. Similarly, for the second circle, I am going to divide the second circle into 4 equal parts and I am going to represent it by a quarter, and I am going to add those 4 quarter and I am going to get a 1. Let us see it, quarter plus quarter plus quarter. So when quarter is added 4 times, you will get 1. This is the representation for the second circle, and 1 quarter for the quarter shaded circle plus quarter. So now you can see that it has been simplified such that all the expression is written in the form of addition of quarters. So since addition can be written in form of multiplication also, because these are the same symbols, 1 quarter. So how many 1 quarters are there? There are 9 1 quarters. So how we are going to use? We are going to use the symbol multiplication for that, multiplication symbol for that. So 9 times quarter, and again it can be written as 9 over 4. Now these two representation, which representation? This first representation, which is 3 1 over 4, is known as mixed fraction, and the other representation, which is 9 over 4, is known as improper fraction. Students, earlier we have seen what is proper fraction. Proper fraction is a fraction which is written in the form of p over q, where p is less than q. But whenever there is a mixed fraction, then the fraction which takes the form is of the form p over q, where p is greater than q. So here you can see that 9 is greater than 4. So it has a special name, it is known as improper fraction. So you should understand how to convert a mixed fraction to an improper fraction and improper fraction to a mixed fraction. So we are going to see that. So how to convert a mixed fraction to improper fraction? For that, let us take a simple example, 3 1 over 4. Now you know what does 3 1 over 4 means. 3 1 over 4 means there are 3 full objects and a quarter of that. So let us see, visualize it. So I have 3 rectangle of same size and a quarter of that rectangle. So 3 and a quarter is represented by the diagram. So but I want that every expression should be in the form of quarter. So for that, what we are going to do? We are going to divide each rectangle into 4 equal parts. So I had divided all the 3 full rectangle into 4 equal parts. What is our unit fraction if I consider one rectangle? It is a quarter. So how many quarter in one rectangle? There are 4 quarter in one rectangle. So you can see that one rectangle there are 4 quarters. So I have to, so now it has become simple. Now we just have to add all the quarters. So how many quarters are there? So you can see that in a rectangle, in a full rectangle, there are 4 quarters and there are 3 such rectangles. So if we want to count all those quarters, how we are going to count it? We can use multiplication for that. So we have 3 rectangles and all the rectangles has been divided into 4 equal parts, and I want a representation for that. So how many quarters are there? So 3 times 4. Now you can understand that why 3 times 4, because we had 3 rectangles and each rectangle has been divided into 4 equal parts, and the 1 represent the 1 quarter which was other from the full rectangle. So I want to represent this entire thing in the form of a fraction. So how I am going to write? We started with 3 quarter, 3 1/4, 3 1/4. So how many 1/4 that we have seen that 3 times 4 plus quarter. So it is represented like this, and again it will go to numerator, and we have 4 as denominator, which we have seen earlier. So let us have a visual representation for it. So you can see that how a mixed fraction is represented over here. So if you have a mixed fraction like a, b over c, then to convert into improper fraction, I have to multiply a and b, add c to it, then the expression would be the numerator and c would be the denominator. So this is how you convert any mixed fraction to improper fraction. So student, you should know how to convert mixed fraction to improper fraction, and you should know how to convert improper fraction to mixed fraction. So let us see how to convert improper fraction to mixed fraction. So for that, let us take an example. So on the screen you can see that there is an improper fraction. Why this is an improper fraction? You can see that 5 over 4 is an improper fraction because the numerator is more than the denominator. So let us see how to convert this into mixed fraction. So what does 5 over 4 means? 5 over 4 means 1/4 added 5 times, or 5 multiplied by 1/4. So it has another representation, quarter added 5 times. Now I want to see how many whole things are here. So you can see that if 1/4 is added 4 times, it becomes a whole. So I am going to collect 1/4, 4 1/4s, and it will represent 1. So it would be 1 plus 1 over 4. If I want to write this into mixed fraction form, how I am going to write it? I am going to write it as 1 and 1 over 4. So student, you have seen that you have had an improper fraction and you have converted to mixed fraction. So in this you have seen that I have to divide the whole thing into equal number of parts depending upon the fraction which is with the mixed fraction. So here you can see that it was 1/4, that's why I divided my object into 5 equal parts. So let us generalize it. So if you have a mixed fraction like a over b, so let us see over here. You can see that a over b, where a is greater than b, you can see that this is a representation for improper fraction. So what we have to do, what is a unit fraction over here? A over b means a multiplied by 1 over b. What does it mean in form of addition? It means that 1 over b or unit fraction is added a times. Now you just have to make a group. You have to see, because if 1 over b taken b times, it represents a whole. So for that you have to divide. So if you want to convert any improper fraction to mixed fraction, you just have to see what is the quotient, what is the remainder, and there is a representation which is shown on the screen. Let us have some more terminology. You have seen that what is a unit fraction, and you have seen what is proper fraction, what is improper fraction, and mixed fraction. Now it may happen that if you represent fraction in the form of p over q, they may have two fractions which has the same denominator. So the fraction which has the same denominator, they are known as like fraction. So you can see 12 over 7, 2 over 7, 5 over 7, these are examples of like fraction. Similarly, there is a definition for unlike fraction. Unlike fraction means the fraction in which the denominators are different. So you can see that 3 over 3, 2 over 3, 2 over 7 and 12 over 13, these are unlike fractions, and you can see that all the denominators are different. That's why we are calling them unlike fraction. Now we are going to see how to add two like fraction, two or more like fraction. For that, let us take an example. So you can see that I am adding two like fraction, 19 over 17 and 12 over 17. These are like fraction. What does 19 over 17 means? 19 over 17 means 19 times 1 over 17. What does 12 over 17 means? 12 over 17 means 12 times 1 over 17. So we are going to expand it. So you can see that 19 1 over 17 and 12 1 over 17. So how many unit fraction 1 over 17s are there? 19 from the first and 12 from the second. So when you are going to add them together, you are going to get 19 plus 12. And further, you are going to get 19 1 over 17. And you know the representation, how to represent it. We take 31 as the numerator and 17 as the denominator. So this is how you add two like fraction. Now the question arises is that how to add two unlike fraction, because it is simple to add two like fractions, but you should know how to convert any unlike fraction to like fraction so that it can be added in this way. Before that, there is again the representation which we have seen. So if you have like fraction, you can see that you just have to add the numerator and you have to take the denominator as it is. So a over b plus c over b. In this, if you want to add it, then you will get a plus c as the numerator and b as the denominator. So let us see how to convert like fraction, unlike fraction to like fraction. For this, let us have, you can see on the screen that there are three rectangles. Each rectangle is divided into two parts. So if I take the first rectangle and if I shade the part, one of the part, you can see that there was a rectangle, it has been divided into two parts and I have shaded one of the part. I want to represent this shaded part. So how you are going to represent this shaded part? You are going to represent this shaded part by 1 over 2. Isn't it simple? Okay, let us move further. Again I have the rectangle, it has been divided into two parts. Again I am shading this one part, I am shading one part, but this time what I am going to do, I am going to divide the shaded part into two parts. So let me divide the shaded part into two parts. Since I have divided the shaded part into two parts and I want to read it as a fraction, I have to divide the unshaded part also into two parts. So let me divide the unshaded part also two parts. So how you are going to represent the shaded portion now? Now you can see that I have a rectangle. The rectangle has been divided into four parts and two parts is shaded. So how to represent it? So you are going to represent it by 2 over 4. Okay. Now you can see that there is a third rectangle. Again I am going to repeat the same process. I am going to shade half portion of it and I am going to divide the shaded portion again into three equal parts. So I have divided the rectangle shaded portion into three equal parts. Since I have divided the shaded portion into three equal parts, I am going to shade the unshaded portion also into three equal parts. So let me divide this unshaded portion into three equal parts. So what do you see? You see that you have a rectangle and you have divided the entire rectangle into 6 equal parts. Now I want to read it. So how you are going to read it? Since out of 6, 3 has been shaded, so 3 over 6. But just notice it. This is the same representation. If you see the first, second and the third rectangle, they are representing one and the same thing. What does it mean? This means that all these three representation is one and the same thing. So let us note that. So this means that 1 over 2 is equals to 2 over 4 is equals to 3 over 6. So when a fraction has different representation, but if it represents the same, it has a special name. They are known as equivalent fraction. So 1 over 2, 2 over 4, 3 over 6, 4 over 8, these are all known as equivalent fraction because they are representing one and the same thing. So student, you should have understood how to convert any fraction to corresponding equivalent fraction. And one more thing to note here is that I could have continued the process and I would have get infinite numbers of equivalent fraction. So for one fraction there are infinite number of equivalent fraction. So let us have some more note on this. If you see 2 over 4 and you can see that 2 over 4 can be written as 1 multiplied by 2 as numerator and 2 multiplied by 2. So we started with 1 over 2. So how to get 2 over 4 from 1 over 2? I just have to multiply the numerator by 2 and denominator by 2. So you will get 2 over 4. Let us see the second one also, 3 over 6. So you can see that if I started from 1 over 2 and I want to reach 3 over 6, what I have to do? I have to multiply the numerator, that is 1 by 3, and the denominator 2 by 3. So you will get 3 over 6. Likewise, I will continue. Suppose I want 4 over 8, then to reach 4 over 8 from 1 over 2, how I am going to reach it? I am going to multiply 1 by 4 and the denominator 2 by 4. So this process will be continued. So this means that for a fraction there are infinite number of equivalent fractions. Let us have an examples so that it would cover what all we have discussed today. So in the example you can see that Samira purchased 3.5 kg apple and 4.75 kg oranges. What is the total weight of fruit purchased by her? So student, what we have to do here? They are asking the total weight. So this means that we have to add both the weight, but it is in the form of mixed fraction. So we have to add these mixed fractions. So the total weight of the fruit is 3.5 plus 4.75. Okay, let us simplify it. So how we are going to simplify it? Students, you know how to convert mixed fraction to improper fraction. So the same thing we are going to do over here. To convert mixed fraction to improper fraction, this is the process. You have to multiply 3 by 2 and you have to add 1 and you have to take 2 as the denominator for the first expression. Similarly for the second expression. So we have converted the entire thing in improper fraction. So again you can see that you got 7 over 2 plus 19 over 4. Now 7 over 2 and 19 over 4, these are not like fraction. Why they are not like fraction? Because the denominators are different. So how to convert, so how to make the denominator same? To make the denominator same, you know how to do it. I will take 7 over 2 and multiply the numerator 7 by 2 and the denominator by 2 so that I will get 4 as the denominator. Now you can see that 14 over 4 and 19 over 4. 14 over 4 and 19 over 4. Now you know how to add like fractions. Since there are 14 quarters and 19 quarters, you just have to add them. You got 33 quarters and in representation it is written as 33 over 4. Now you can know that it is an improper fraction. Now if you want to convert this into mixed fraction, what do you have to do? You have to divide 33 by 4 and whatever quotient you are going to get, 8 and 1 over 4. So this is in the form of mixed fraction. So students, you understood that why fractions are important, because it comes in our day-to-day life and we have to use how to add fractions. There are many more concepts which we have to learn. So in this session we have learned what is fraction, what is the representation of fraction, what are different type of fractions, and how to convert mixed fraction to improper fraction, improper fractions to mixed fractions, what are equivalent fractions. In the subsequent sessions, we are going to see how to multiply fraction and how to divide fraction. Till then, take care. Thank you.